Hi guys, Mrs. Albert's here and welcome back to my channel. Let's begin. Right, let's look at vraestel 2 November 2020 and let's break it down. Text M, this is the scene where Fiela has been told by the census people that they are going to come and fetch Benjamin to take to Neisner, and she is trying to think her way out of it and then finally decides that he has to go, and she starts barking the orders to get Benjamin ready to go to Neisner. 7.1, waarom is Benjamin daardie Vrydag op Neisner wees? Why did he have to be in Neisner on that Friday? The magistrate wanted to see him, Mr. Goldsbury wanted to see him, you could say Mr. Goldsbury wanted to investigate the child that went missing. He wanted to see if the forest woman recognizes Benjamin as the child that went missing. 7.2, Fiela moes die censusmanne se vraag oor Benjamin beantwoord en sy teenwoordigheid verduidelik. Be very careful for this question. It says here that Fiela had to explain and answer the census people's questions about Benjamin and his presence on her farm. This does not now mean that you have to theorize why while answering these questions. You have to be specific. What was her answers, her explanations to the questions or the accusations that they give her? So 7.2.1, waar het Fiela vir Benjamin gekry? She found him where his mother left him. In front of a door. You could be a bit more specific, by the kitchen door, by the house door, by the front door, wherever. But it has to be, as she would have said it. And then finally, her way of always saying that God entrusted him to her. Number 2, waarom het Fiela Benjamin se teenwoordigheid geheim gehou? Why did she hide him? Why did she keep him secret? But she didn't. In the first time when the census people came to her and asked this question, because they actually asked this question twice, she explains that there was no magistrate she could take him to. She went to the veldkornet twice, but he wasn't there. She tried to go to Petrus, but he was off to Neisner to the sea. And then at that point, Benjamin was so attached to her, she couldn't send him away anymore. And everyone in the kloof knew about it, and they didn't gossip about him at all. So they were all happy about him being there. The second time, she says, she didn't keep him out of church. She didn't hide him. She taught him religion. She taught him about the Bible, and that he didn't go to school not because she's hiding him, but because she teaches him. He's being taught by his brothers as well as baby Stuart, who teaches him. 7.2.3, waarom woon Benjamin nie school by nie? Why does he not go to school? Because Benjamin's brothers teaches him at home. She teaches him from the Bible. Miss Baby Stewart teaches him some mathematics. 7.3, waarom het Fiela geglo dat Benjamin nie die verlore boskind kon wees nie? Why did she believe strongly that Benjamin could not have been that boy that went missing in the forest? Because he was so small. There was no road leading from the forest to Langekloof. The forest was too thick, too dense. It was too difficult to, you would get lost and die. There was no road leading from there. Oh, I did say that. And it was too mountainous to go from Neisner to Langekloof. There's a whole mountain range between the two. And it was impossible for a 3-year-old to walk that far. And on top of that, the boy that she found was clean and neat, and it didn't look like he walked far. 7.4.1 or 7.4 has to do with that Oband section. Give the correct answer. The words Oband says that Fiela is she praying or thinking. Now, Oband can be later in your book about being praying, but at this point in this text, it's her thinking. It's not her praying. 7.4.2, wat lei ons uit hierdie spreekbeurt van Fiela af? Met ander woorde, watter plan probeer Fiela maak? So what can you deduce from this part of the dialogue? What is she trying? What is she planning? She is trying to think of a different way of not sending him to Neisner, of hiding him, of making him hide somewhere in the Fonteinkloof, any plan to make him not go. 7.5. Wat bedoel Fiela as sy sê, ek het oral gedink en ek kry nie 'n ander pad nie. What does she mean when she says, I thought everywhere and I cannot think of a different way or a different road? She means there's no way out. There's no different plan. Benjamin has to go to Knysna with the census people. Now looking at the whole book, this question refers to the whole book, so keep that in mind. They can do that. Fiela het rede gehad om nie die twee censusmanne te vertrou nie. She had reason to not trust these two census people. Explain why this statement is true, and then focus on everything that the census people did and said. Well, first they promised to bring him back on Saturday. They never did that. They refused to take her on the cart to Knysna. They didn't really listen to her questions or listen to her explanations. They didn't trust her. The tall one told Bartha which child to choose, and they were all looking down on Fiela just because she was colored. Then I'll match the columns. You have to match cause and effect, basically. So 7.7.1, the census people come and fetch Benjamin with the horse and cart. So that matches with Fiela that couldn't go with to Knysna because there was no space on the cart. 7.7.2, Lange says that Bartha, which child Bartha needs to choose. That links with Benjamin becomes the Van der Rooyen child. Nina, at number 3, is being beaten until she says in which direction Lucas ran away in, and that leads to be Lucas's first hiding from Elias. Paksla means hiding. 7.7.4, die magistraat verbied Fiela om naby Benjamin te kom. She is being told she's forbidden. The magistrate forbids Fiela to go near Benjamin, and that leads to Fiela having to say a farewell without seeing her child, but just dropping his things in the forest. Okay, choose the correct answer to fit into the sentence. So we've got a paragraph. Benjamin het soos sy ma beloof het nooit nodig gehad om skaam te wees omdat hy 'n Komoti was nie. So Benjamin never had a reason to feel ashamed because he was a Komoti. His mother promised him that in the beginning. Dit is ook deur somebody aan die einde van die roman gesê. So at the end of our book, somebody else reinforces this idea that he has nothing to be ashamed of in his surname Komoti. Bartha never said anything about Komotis. Nina, she only spoke about their skin color. Miss Weatherbury didn't even know the Komotis, so it can only be John Ben, who at the end of the book says Komoti is an honorable colored surname. Now 7.9 looks like it has a gazillion answers, and that's why my little bitmoji, bitty-me, is fainting, because it's not for you, it's the marking of a question like this is ridiculous, because there's so much you could say. Okay, so you have to explain, verduidelik met feite uit die drama, waarom dit onregverdig was om vir Benjamin by Fiela weg te neem en vir die Van Rooyens te gee. Explain with facts out of the drama why it was unfair to give Benjamin to the Van der Rooyens and taking him away from Fiela. Well, there's 3 things I just need to highlight here. So first, they discussed why it is unfair towards Benjamin to take him away from Fiela. Then they discussed how it is unfair towards Fiela that Benjamin was taken away, and then the whole process was unfair. So first, with Benjamin being the person that gets the unfair here, Benjamin wasn't a Van der Rooyen, he wasn't the Van der Rooyen's child. He was loved, he was taught good values and morals, he was educated and well taken care of when he was with Fiela. He knew Fiela and the Komotis as his parents, as his mother, as his family. He was happy. He could just be a child when he was with them. He was already used to being a Komoti. He didn't have an identity crisis when he was with them. He knew who he was, and then finally there was no abuse like Elias gave him later. Then why was it unfair towards Fiela? Because Fiela taught him everything. She looked after him. She took him in as one of her own. She brought him up with care and love, but she was also strict with him, where at the Van Rooyens he was abused. And then just because she was colored, she could not have a white child in her household, and that was unfair. The whole process being unfair was Benjamin was taken just because he was white. Fiela wasn't allowed to go to the magistrate, to the court. Bartha chose him only because Lange told her to. The magistrate never listened to Fiela and her explanations and her questions when she was questioning the logic. And then finally, this whole case was not investigated the way it should have been. Okay, 7.10. Waarom dink jy kon die magistraat nie anders as om te besluit om Benjamin vir die Van Rooyens te gee nie? Why do you think the magistrate had no choice other than to give Benjamin to the Van Rooyens? So this is a difficult question, but it's actually very straightforward. He didn't have a choice because back in those days, it was normal to have white with white and colored with colored. So the segregation law basically forced him to do so. He had to make sure that the white kid gets to a white family, but also keep in mind that he had to make his choice based on what Bartha said. And Bartha came in and chose this boy immediately out of 4 other boys. So in his mind, she chose the right boy, and therefore he had to give the child to her. 7.11, gestel. Gestel means to imagine or put yourself in this situation. So gestel Lucas het, nadat die magistraat hom aan die Van Rooyens gegee het, dit reg gekry om weg te loop uit die bos Lange Kloof toe. So imagine Lucas, after being given to the Van Rooyens, finally had a chance to run away from them and go back to Lange Kloof. Hoe sou dit die verloop van die drama vir Nina ongelukkig gemaak het? How would that have changed the way of the drama to have a negative impact on Nina? Nina wouldn't have had a friend. She wouldn't ever have experienced love or friendship or any relationship like she had with Benjamin. She would not have had somebody to trust. Remember, she shares her secret with him. Maybe she would have ended up in Knysna, but she would have been quite lonely. Maybe because of him not being there, she would have been captured and held in that abusive, bad circumstances in the forest. She probably would have gotten worse abuse because Benjamin wasn't there as a wall between her and Elias. He wasn't there to cover for her. And then she would have been lonely. She would have been lonely because there was no other children to play with her, nobody else of her age. Okay, text N. We've got Lucas, we've got Fiela and Seling. This is the moment right after Lucas was reunited with his mother Fiela. It is the whole over the speaker situation where Fiela is talking about Seling who had to be put to bed and asked to be read from the Bible. We've got Fiela and Seling talking about how Benjamin looks like he is working like a hungry man and that God is good, but Seling seeing a sadness in Benjamin. Okay, so choose the correct answer. Lucas het besluit om na die Komoties toe terug te gaan nadat hy gehoor het. So Lucas decided to go back to the Komoties after he heard what? That Elias was looking for him or that David had died. It was the news of David that made him go back to Lange Kloof. Only after Nina gave him that message does she say that Elias is on his way looking for him and that he has to go quick. So yes, Elias was looking for him, but first the choice was made when he heard David died. In reël 2 verwys Lucas na 5 shillings. Waarom het Fiela dit jare gelede vir hom gegee om saam te neem Knysna toe? So there's 5 shillings in line 2 that they are referring to. Why did Fiela give it to him many years ago before he went to Knysna? It was to show the magistrate that the Komoties had money. They could look after, they could care for Benjamin. They weren't kaalgatte. Kaalgatte means poor people. And it was that in case the magistrate asked if he has money, so he can prove that they do have money. 7.14, kies die korrekte antwoord uit die tussen hakies. Seling wou die verhaal van die verlore seun hoor, omdat dit hom aan Lucas of Tolly laat dink het. This whole text N has to do with Lucas's return, so it wouldn't be about Tolly. So Seling wanted to hear the story about the prodigal son because it made him think of Lucas. Ugh, don't we just hate the fill-in paragraph questions? But here we go. So you have to fill in the right words. Fiela en Seling kon sien dat Lucas nie homself was nie. Fiela en Seling could see that Lucas wasn't himself. Sy probleem was dat hy op wie verlief was. So his problem was that he was in love with his sister Nina. Okay, you can see there, they said Nina. Yeah, you could have said his sister. I'm sure they would have taken that one as well. Dit was 'n verbode liefde omdat hy gedink het dat hierdie meisie sy sister was. It was a forbidden love because he thought that this girl was his sister. Now look at the sister, you cannot spell it like English. Remember, you may make spelling mistakes as long as it doesn't look like the English word. Okay, so they will take spelling mistakes but not English. Dit was vir hom belangrik om uit te vind wie hy werklik was. It was very important for him to find out who he was. Daarom het hy besluit om weer die twee wêrelde van sy kinder daar op te soek. So therefore he decided to go and look up the two worlds from his childhood. First, where he is now, so this is Lange Kloof or Wolwekraal. First he goes to Lange Kloof waar hy nou is, en toe weer die waar die Van Rooyens was, to the forest, to Barnardse Eiland where the Van Rooyens were. 7.16 verduidelik die innerkonflik wat Fiela beleef het toe Lucas na 7 jaar daar gestaan het. Onthou om na albei kante van die konflik te noem. Okay, so here you have to look at the inner conflict that Fiela is experiencing. Remember, conflict always has two sides and you have to refer to both. I like the last option best, so I'm going to start with the last option. She was standing there looking at this man and she wanted to just hold him. She wanted to embrace him. She wanted to give him a hug. But she wasn't sure whether he was still accepting her as a mother. She wasn't sure. So all of these have to do with the fact that she wanted to hug him. So I'm just going to name the other options. The other sides that you can mention is that she looked at this white man and she was hesitant, because what if he was now taught that there is a difference between colored people and white people? What if he doesn't accept her because she is colored? What if he is not the same boy that she still remembers? My favorite is the one about mother, because only after he says, "Groet ma my nie," does the embrace actually happen, which tells us the inner conflict she experienced was more about wanting to hug him, but not sure if he still accepts her as his mother. Domino questions, we've spoken about that in a previous one. That means that if you get 7.17.1 wrong, then no matter what you write at 7.17.2, you will unfortunately not get the mark. So both need to be correct. So they say here that ons ken vir Seling as iemand wat. So we know Seling as, and then they give you attributes of Seling's character. Hy help waar hy kan ten spyte van sy sieklikheid, vir Fiela kon raad gee, geweet het wat in sy kinders se harte aangaan. He helps where he can, he helps where he can despite his illness, and he is somebody that could give Fiela some advice. He also knew what was going on in his children's hearts. Then they want to know which one of these attributes is best described by the text that you just read. So you have to go back, look at your text, which one of these three describes this moment best, and that is the fact that he knows what's going on in his children's hearts. Why? Because you could see that there was something, there was a sadness in Benjamin, there was something bothering him. So 7.17.2, there's the reason you have to say he could see that there was something bothering him. Then choose the correct answer. Why did Lucas find it, or why was it so important for Lucas to learn how to row? Your choices are to make Seling proud, that he wanted to work for John Ben, C, that Armstrong could ask him to row to Nutsi's ghost ship. Why? I don't know, the ghost ship's probably not there anymore, ne? And then D, Khalil September could not pay him for his services anymore. Khalil September never paid him money anyway. He paid him in food and lodging. Armstrong's boat, that ghost ship, is gone already. And Seling probably would have been proud of his son anyway, but the whole focus of his rowing was he wanted to work with John Ben in Knysna as a rower. 7.19, dink aan Lucas se gesprek met Fiela net na hierdie uittreksel. So go to your text in. Right after this section, there is a conversation between Fiela and Lucas, and you know the conversation, it's the big conversation. Noem twee dinge waaroor Lucas met Fiela gepraat het. So two things that he spoke to her about. So there was a lot of things. He asked her about if she still believes a 3-year-old couldn't walk that far. He wanted to know if she knows who he was. He basically proclaimed his love for Nina towards her, and basically the reason was to have her opinion about it. And also they discussed the land that Fiela wanted to give him to farm on. Then 7.20, Lucas het by 2 geleenthede vir Bartha gevra om of hy haar kind is. Hoe het Bartha se antwoord tydens die eerste besoek aan hulle verskil van haar antwoord tydens die tweede besoek? So you have to now look at the 2 times Lucas went to Bartha to ask if he was his son. Look at both and then you have to compare the two times, the differences between the two. So the first one, she said that she was willing to go to the magistrate to swear that he was Lucas, and in the second one she says that in front of the magistrate she was told which one to choose, which means she was lying. Then a little bit more basic answers. So the first time she said yes, he is her son. The second time she said no, he isn't her son. In the first meeting, she says that he was her child. In the second one, that he wasn't her child. Very similar to the previous one. And then lastly, in the first one, she lies, and in the second one, she admits the truth. 7.21. Watter les dink jy het Bartha in hierdie drama geleer? Uit dit wat tussen haar en Lucas gebeur het, what lesson do you think Bartha learned through what happened between her and Lucas? And that is that the truth always comes out. Lies are never hidden. That lies can ruin and destroy people's lives. It can hurt people's lives. You always have to be truthful, never lie. You must never let people tell you what to do. Do not let them influence you. Do not let them manipulate you. And you have to make your own decisions. And that's it for the 2020. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you've got any questions, you can follow me on Instagram at Afrikaans Classroom. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos. Like and share.